Hi and welcome to this AQA Maths Paper 1 Foundation Tier prediction. Enjoy! Hi, welcome to this prediction from On Maths. Now, with this prediction, what we've done is we've looked at all the previous exam paper questions, seen what comes up regularly, what's long overdue to come up, and we've created this predicted paper. Now, this predicted paper you can also do online if you click up here, and it's completely for free, and you can even sign up to save your scores. Now, the online version will change the numbers each time you do it, so you'll get a unique experience. You won't just remember answers, but the methods you'll see in this video, you'll use exactly the same. We've also got topic busters on the site, which are just focused on a specific topic, and we've got them for all the Maths GCSE topics. We've also got videos on this site for every single type of exam paper question. And also we've got the revisionator on our site, which is for short, quick revision. So if you've got 10, 15 minutes and you want just a completely random selection of questions, then please go and check that out on our site. Now, as we always say with these videos, please do not fully rely on this as your only revision strategy. Please do this alongside all your other revision for these reset papers. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. And if you want to see more from us, especially Paper 2 and Paper 3 coming up very, very soon, please click subscribe. Enjoy.
So this question asks us to write the smallest odd number. Now there's two instructions there. We need to make the smallest number from the digits, and it needs to be odd. So to make the smallest number, we want to use the smallest digits on the left hand side of the number and the largest digits on the right hand side of the number. Okay. We also need the last number to be odd. Now to make a number odd, the last number needs to be 1, 3, 5, 7 or 9. Okay, so looking at the largest numbers, the largest number is 6, so we want to end on a 6. However, 6 is an even number, therefore if we end on a 6, it will be an even number. So we've got to look at the largest odd number, which is the 5. So the 5 is going to go here to make the number odd. Then we need to use up that 6 next. And then the next largest number is the 4, and then 3. So my answer is 3,465. Now always just check to see whether we've answered the question. It says it wants the smallest odd number. Well, that's an odd number, and I can't think of a way of swapping those digits to make it any smaller, because we've used the smallest numbers we can on the left hand side and the biggest on the right hand side.
So in this question we're asked what name this polygon has. Now a polygon is just a shape that has an amount of sides, poly meaning many. So we've got to count the sides first. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And a 7-sided shape is called a heptagon. Now, many students know that it's a septagon. Heptagon is a better answer. Don't ask me why. Next, it says how many sides does a hexagon have. Now, I always got pentagon and hexagon mixed up until someone told me that the x in hexagon is the x in 6. So from then on, I know that a pentagon has 5 sides and a hexagon has 6. So a hexagon has 6 sides. It's really important that you know all the names of the shapes up until a 10-sided shape. So to convert a percentage into a fraction, you just need to remember that percent means per 100. So that percentage sign there just means per 100. So it's 30 per 100, or 30 over 100. Then we need to simplify that, so we're going to divide top and bottom by 10, and we get 3 over 10. So the simplest version is 3 over 10. Now for this next question, we need to convert these all into the same thing. By far the easiest thing to convert them all into is percentages. So we don't need to do anything with C. For A, all you need to do is times it by 100. Any decimal, you just times by 100, it makes it a percentage. So that's 49%. Now with this one, we make it so that the bottom is 100. So what I'm going to do is times top and bottom by 20.
And then, as I said in the question A, percent just means per 100, so that's just 20%. And the last one is just 71%, it's already in percentage. Now you can clearly see here that the 20% is the smallest, 71% is the largest. However, we need to work out which way around it wants it. Where it says ascending order, ascending means going from smallest to biggest. A plane ascends when it takes off, and then descends when it starts coming down to land. So it's really important that you write in the numbers in the question rather than the ones that we wrote. So we're going to start with the smallest, which is 20%, which was 1/5. So don't write 20%. Then 49%, which is 0.49. And then finally 71%.
So for this question we're asked to find the percentage of the shape that's shaded. So there are 4 sections in total and 2 of them are shaded. So as a fraction that would be 2/4. Well, we can halve top and bottom, so it's a half. And you can see there that half of that's shaded. So what is half as a percentage? Well, a whole as a percentage is 100%. So a half as a percentage is 50%. And if you didn't know that, you need to just practice knowing the main percentages. A tenth is 10%, a hundredth is 1%, and a quarter is 25%. Okay, the next question says what fraction is shaded. So we need to know 2 things. First of all, how many squares are shaded. So 1, 2, 3. So it'd be 3 over the total amount of squares. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares. So the fraction is 3/8. For the next question, it says shade in a fifth of this shape. Well, there's 10 squares altogether, and we want to shade a fifth. So we need to find a fifth of 10. In other words, what's a fifth times 10? When you times something by a fraction, just divide it by the bottom of the fraction. So another way of writing that is 10 divided by 5, which is 2. A different way of thinking about this question is if you cut this shape up into 5 equal sections, those sections, the green sections, become a fifth. So if we want to shade 1/5, we just want to shade in one of those sections. And actually that's the amount of squares that our calculation just worked out. So it should be 2 squares. Now, it doesn't have to be the 2 squares that I've shaded. As long as you've shaded in 2 squares, then you've answered the question. And the last question says, write down the fractions there that are equivalent to a quarter. Well, a nice easy way of starting this question off is just write down things that are equivalent to a quarter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to times top and bottom of this fraction by 2. So 2/8. So I've times them by 2. Then I'm going to times them by 3. So it would be 3/12. Then I'm going to times them both by 4, and I'm just looking at this original fraction here. I'm going to times them both by 4, so it would be 4/16. And times them both by 5, 5/20. Now all those fractions are equivalent, which means the same as a quarter. So let's have a look at our list. Well, we've got 2/8 there, so it's that one, and we've got 5/20 there. So my answer is going to be fraction B and fraction C. So for the first question, when you're adding letters together, the answer will be a number and then that letter. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be 5B. The most common wrong answer is B to the power of 5. Now that's wrong because that only happens when you times them together, when you multiply them together. So it's going to be 5B for the first one. Next one is 10 lots of F, and we're taking away 3 lots of the F. Well, how many F have we got left over? Well, 10 lots of it and take away 3 lots of it means we've got 7 lots of it left. When you're simplifying one like this, in algebra we just don't use the times sign, so this is quite a nice easy question, 10AB.
Now the last one is like terms, so we've got 5x here and we're adding 5x, and we've got a 3y here and we're taking away a y. So when you add the 5x to the 5x you get 10x, and when you've got 3y and you're taking away y, which is short for 1y, so we've got 3 y's, taking away 1y, we're left with 2y. Now you can't simplify that any further because they are not like terms. You can times them, but you can't add or subtract them. Now I know it might seem a bit obvious, but it's really important in this question that we realise that 1 hour is 60 minutes. Now the reason for that is it's really easy to accidentally think that there's 100 minutes in an hour. So 4 hours will be 4 times as much. 4 times 6 is 24 with a 0 because it's 60, not 6. Now a quarter of an hour, well, if you think about what half an hour is half-an-hour is 30 minutes. And so a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. So because this is 4 1/4 hours, it's going to be 240 minutes plus another 15 minutes. So the answer is going to be 255 minutes. Okay, so this question gives us a set of instructions to create a sequence, and it asks us to write the first 3 terms in the sequence. Now it says it starts at 20, so that's nice and easy, and it says the term-to-term rule is add 5. So we're going to add 5 to get the next one, and we're going to add 5 to get the last one. So each time we're adding 5. And that's it. Okay, so this question's about coordinates, and the biggest mistakes with coordinates is getting them the wrong way around. So point A, which is this one here, it's either going to be 2, 1 or 1, 2. And the way of remembering it is you always go across first and then up. You go along the corridor, up the stairs. Okay, so you always read off the x-axis and then the y-axis. So the coordinate is 2 because we go 2 to the right from the middle, and 1 because we go 1 up. Now coordinate B is the same, so we're going along the corridor to -2, and then up 3. So along 2, or we'll go to the left 2, and up 3. Okay, it's asked us for which coordinate is at a point -2, -3. So we're going across to -2 again. But this time we're going -3, which means down 3. So it's going to be coordinate C, because C is at -2, -3. Okay, so we're asked which 2 points on the line y equals -2. So we've got to understand what y equals -2 is first. Y equals -2 is a line where y is always -2. Well, we know y is -2 here, but also y is -2 here, and actually anywhere across this line. And we call that line y equals -2 because y is always -2 along it. If you have a y equals line, it'll always go from left to right. If you have an x equals line, it'll always go from top to bottom. So the 2 coordinates on that line are D and E. So the 2 points on the line are D and E. So we're given a basic formula to work out how long this turkey is going to take to cook. It says that the cooking time, so we can just call that time, is the weight, which it says is a 3 kilogram turkey, and just check that the units are the same, which they are. So it's the 3 times 30, then add 90. 3 times 30 is 90. 90 plus 90 is 180. Now just double check that it wants it in minutes. Sometimes it'll ask for it in hours. Well, it says it wants it in minutes, so 180. Okay, so a few things we need to realise with this question. First of all, what does product mean? Product just means times. It means if you times them together, that's the answer, right? And we're looking for more than 2. We'll come back to that later. So first of all, we're going to do a sample space diagram for this. So we've got the numbers from spinner 2 up here, and the numbers from spinner 1 here. But instead of like writing down the combinations, we're just going to write down the answers to the product. So we're going to do 1 times 0, 0. In fact, anything times 0 is 0. Then we're going to do 1 times 1, 1 times 2, 1 times 3, 1 times 4. 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, and 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, and 3 times 4. So these are all our possible answers when we spin these 2 spinners. And what I'm going to do is try and show all the ones that are more than 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 of them are more than 2. So 9 will be on the top of my fraction when I show the probability. And what we need to do is put that over the total amount, including the 9 we circled. So there are in total, when we can count them, or I notice it's a 4 by 4 grid, so it's going to be 16. I can't cancel that. Now be careful, really common mistake is these 2. Because it says more than 2, those don't count. So it has to be 3, 4, 5 onwards. Really other common mistake is this bottom number here. A lot of students would put that as, was it 5, is it? No, 7. They put it as 7 because it's all the remaining numbers. No, that bottom number is always the total amount of numbers. Okay, so this seems quite a complicated question, but it's one of those questions that if you break down, each step is a little bit easier than you think. So the first thing I would do is I would work out how much money that Shafi's making. So she's charging £15 a ticket and she sells 100 tickets. So it's going to be 100 times 15, which is going to be 15 with 2 zeros. So that's the amount of money she's making. Now the costs are a little bit more complicated to work out. So the entrance fee is going to be £11 per person. So we do 11 times 15, oh, not 15, 11 times 100 because she sells 100 tickets, which is 11 with 2 zeros. All the other costs are just one-off costs. So that's the total cost. Those aren't per person. So other costs are going to be 200 plus 40 plus 40, which is going to equal 280. So we're going to work out the total costs by doing 1,100 plus 280. And you can do any of these using any method you feel comfortable with, and you don't necessarily have to for this one. So the total costs are 1,380, and she's made £1,500. So she's donating all the extra money to the school fund. So to work out how much she's donating, and be really explicit with what you're working out. So the donation is the money coming in, take away money going out. And again, you can use any method you feel happy with. And obviously if this is on the calculator, you just type it into the calculator. So we 0 take away 0 is 0. Can't do the next one, so I'm going to take 1 from the 5. So 10 take away 8 is 2, 4 take away 3 is 1, and then 1 take away 1 is 0. So that's going to be £120. So with this question, just make sure you're writing down what you're working out, and so the examiner can easily give you the marks. Really, I could probably, if I had space, put this working out just under here so that the examiner can follow what I'm doing when. And same with this one. This could go where I was actually using it, so it could go down there in my working out. and it might make it a bit easier.
Okay, so there's many ways of solving. My way is to add the lines, which I do across the site. So just draw 2 lines down. Now we need to get x on its own, so the thing next to the x is a times 2. And to get x on its own, we need to do the opposite of times 2. So we're going to divide 2 both sides. I'm showing the examiner that I'm doing it both sides. So we're left with x on this side, which is great. It's what we wanted, because solve means to find out what x is. And 4 divided by 2, which is 2. So x equals 2 for that first one. For the next one, we've got y minus 4 equals 4. We're going to get our lines down. Okay, so the bit we want to get rid of is this minus 4 bit. So we're going to do the opposite of that, which is add 4 both sides. So y is 4 plus 4, which is 8. Okay. So that was a 2 for a second, but it's a z. Right. So this one's slightly harder. Only if we don't know what over means. Now, over, which is this bit here, so over 3, means divide by 3. So the opposite of divide by 3 is times 3. So we have times 3 both sides. So z equals 4 times 3, which is 12. So we're told 1 kilogram of cheese costs £7.70. How much would 600 grams cost? Well, first of all, I'm going to have weight, mass, and price. And I'm just going to sort of split them down the middle. So the weight, well, 1 kilogram is not going to help us because this one's in grams. So I'm going to convert that to grams. So it's 1,000 grams. And I'm going to convert this into pence. So 770 pence. Okay, so I need to get to 600 grams. And so first of all, if I've got a calculator, I can do this a lot easier. But without a calculator, let's try. Well, I can first of all divide this by 10 to get it so that it's 100. So that's 100 grams. And that would be 77. And then what I can do is I can times these by 6 to get 600. Okay, so if you've got a calculator, you can just type it in, but let's assume that you don't for this question. So we've got 77 times 6. 6 times 7 is 42. Add a 0. 6 times 7 is 42. Add them together. Probably don't need to do this, but anyway, I'll do it anyway. 264. So it's 462 pence, but in pounds it would be £4.62. Last thing, just check it makes sense. Well, we've got just over half, so therefore the price is just over half. So it looks good to me. Okay, so in this question we see that a square has an area of 121 centimeters squared, and we're asked for the perimeter of the square. So the first thing I would do is do a quick little diagram of this square. And we know that the area is 121 centimeters squared. Okay, so I know it's a square, so therefore the width, or the base, and the height will be exactly the same. Okay, and I know to find area, I do this one times this one. So I know that x times x, or x squared, equals 121. And if I put my lines in, then I can square root both sides, and so x is 11. So I know that 11 times 11 is 121. Now the temptation is to think, right, I've got the answer 11. But it's asked for the perimeter of the square. So I know perimeter is the distance around the square, and each side is 11. So it's 11 plus 11 plus 11 plus 11, or 11 times 4, which is the perimeter, which is 44. So the answer is 44 centimeters. Okay, so we have water and we have orange squash. And we need 3 parts water
to 2 parts orange squash. It seems quite rich drink to me, but anyway. And it says, find out how much water is needed to dilute 80 centilitres of orange squash. So the first thing you need to think about is, how do you get from 2 to 80? Well, I could do 80 divided by 2, but I think we just know it's times 40. So whatever you do to that side, you have to do to this side. So we're going to have to times that by 40 as well. So we're going to do 3 times 40. I know 3 times 4 is 12. So therefore that's going to be 120. So it's going to need 120 centilitres of water to dilute the 80 centilitres of orange juice. With two-way tables, we've got to use the totals to work out the missing numbers. So a nice place to start is this box here. If we have a look, we've got a total of 46 people with brown eyes. 23 of them are female. So all we need to do is 46 and take away the 23, and that leaves 23 left over. Now let's have a look at a nice easy one. Right, green eyes, that's a nice easy one there. We've got 48 in total, and 27 females with green eyes. So we want to do 48, take away 27, and that leaves us with 21. Now if we have a look at this one, we have 23 females 23 males with brown eyes, 18 males with blue eyes, and 21 males with green eyes. And we assume that there weren't any others because they're not in the table. So we add those together and that gives us 62 in total. And let's have a look at this one maybe. So we've got 62 females altogether, and we've got 27 of them have green eyes and 23 of them have brown eyes. So we take the 23 and the 27 away from 62, and that leaves us with 12. And we can just check that. We can do 23 plus 12 plus 27, and it equals 62. So we know that's right. With that one sorted, we can get this one. And if there's 18 males with blue eyes and 12 females with blue eyes, that means there's going to be 30 altogether. Now this total is either the total of these ones or the total of these ones, and they should give you the same number. Don't add the blue and the green ones together, so it's only one of them. So 46 plus 30 plus 48 is 124. And let's just check that. 62 plus 62 is also 124. So don't ever write down 248 because that's not correct. So in total there are 124 people whose eye colour were checked. Okay, so for this question, we've basically got the mean of the numbers. We know what 3 of them are, but we don't know what the 4th one is because the numbers rubbed off. Okay, so first thing for this question is think about how you would work out the mean. You'd work out the mean by adding these numbers together and then getting the answer and dividing by the amount of numbers we've got, which is 4. And we know that equals 12. So if I put an algebra letter in, let's call it x, then I can write that down. So 9 plus 6 plus 15 plus x, which is our unknown, divided by 4 equals 12. Okay. Now if I put my lines down and just try and solve it, first thing to do is I'm going to times both sides by 4 to get rid of that divide by 4. And I'm going to add these numbers together because we know what the answer to this is. So 15 plus 6 is 21, 21 plus 9 is 30. So 30 plus x, and we've got rid of the divide by 4 because we've times it by 4, equals, and then 12 times 4, which is 48. Okay, next thing to do is take away that 30. So we've got x equals 18. So I know the answer is 18, but I can check that just to check whether I've got it right. So 9 plus 6 plus 15 plus 18 is going to be 48. 48 divided by the amount of numbers, which is 4. So 48 divided by 4 is 12. So that's my answer. Now, you could have done that through just trying different numbers out, but imagine in the exam, maybe the numbers are going to be a lot bigger. So this method is probably the quickest, but there are other methods, other ways of doing it.
When you're asked to describe the relationship between two things on a scatter graph, the sentence you need to write is, as this one increases, this one either increases or decreases. So as time of day increases, test marks, and because they're going up, it's a positive correlation, test marks increase. So there's a difference between describing the type of correlation or writing the type of correlation and describing the relationship. When you're describing the relationship, it's just as the one at the bottom increases, the one up the side either increases or decreases. So it says, using the scatter graph, the examination centre then conclude that time of day leads to positive effect on test scores. Are they correct to make this conclusion? And basically this is a question about the fact that just because two things correlate does not mean that one causes the other. So a sentence like, there may be other factors such as, I don't know, what else? Tiredness, fatigue, tiredness. So try and make sure you give an example as well to support your argument.
At first glance, this seems like a really easy question. It seems like the answer will just be 80. But we've got to understand the way that bearings are written out. It says work out the bearing of A from B. It means that we are at B and we're trying to find where A is in relation to B. So the actual question is asking you for this angle here. Now don't forget, bearings are the angle going clockwise from north. So not so easy. The first step of doing this, and there are different ways of doing this, is just draw a line. In fact, I'll use my straight line one. Just draw a line straight down at B. If I can get it right, there we go. Now, north lines are always going to be parallel, and we can use that to work out this angle here. This angle here will be the same as this angle here, because they're Z angles or alternate angles. So that's also going to be 80. We know this one is a straight line, so we know this is going to be 180 degrees. So all we need to do to work out the bearing is do 180 plus 80. And when you add them together, you get 260. So the bearing is going to be 260. Now there are other ways of doing it. You could have worked out this angle, because this angle and the 80 degrees over here are co-interior, interior, or allied angles, whichever one you want to call them. So they will add up to 180. So we know that one's going to be 100. And then what we could have done is 360 take away 100, because it's the full circle is going to be 360, and we don't want that 100 one. You'd also get 260. Question A seems like a really complicated question, but it really isn't. If you think about what you know about a rectangle, you know that opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So if you just write down x plus 1 is the same as 12, and then solve it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away 1 both sides. Then x equals 11. So we know that x is 11. Let's check that out. It says here x minus 1. Well, what is 11 take away 1? Well, it's 10. And that is the same as that. So we know that x equals 11. And that's it. Question B. Have a think about what you know. you know that all angles in a triangle add up to 180. So we know that if we add y, 2y, and 3y together, it's going to equal 180 degrees. So again, let's just get our lines down so that we can solve it. So 1y plus 2y plus 3y, well, that gives us 6y in total. And then what we need to do is get rid of that times 6 there by dividing 6 both sides. So y equals 180 divided by 6. Well, I know 18 divided by 6 is 3, so I know that's going to be 30.
Okay, so for this question, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to convert these into easier numbers to deal with. So I'm going to times this left-hand one by 10 and times this right-hand one by 10. So we actually end up with whole numbers, which are much easier to multiply. I've just got to remember to turn them back at the end to deal with that at the end. So there's multiple ways you can multiply these together. You can use the grid or column or whatever method you feel comfortable using. So let's put these in a column. But again, there's no additional marks if you do one way or the other. Okay, so 5 times 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Add the 1 is 6. 5 times 7 is 35. So it'll be 35. Now the next thing we're doing is 40 times 3. So what we're going to do is just add a 0 here, and then we can just think of it as a 4. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 1 is 4, add the 1 is 5, and 4 times 7 is 28. Then we're going to add going downwards, so 5, 6 times 2 is 8, 5 times 5 is 10, so it would be 8 plus 3, which is 11, plus the 1 is 12, and then 2 plus the 1 we carried, which is 3. So this is going to equal 32,085. But the problem is we times two numbers by 10, so we need to undo that, and we do that, undo it by dividing it by 10 and then dividing it by 10 again. So in total we've divided it by 100. So it's going to be 32 with a 0 and then 0.85. So the answer is 320.85. And normally you can just check to see roughly whether that's right. So 71 is roughly 70, 4.5 is, I don't know, roughly 5. So 7 times 5 is 35, so 70 times 5 is 350. Well, 320.85 is not far off 350, so we know we've probably got it right.
Okay, so for this question, we're given a plan of a garden, and we're given a set of instructions of where the tree can be planted. So it says that we can't be any closer than 5 meters, so at least 5 meters away from point C. So that's from here. So let's have a look at that first. Now, I'm going to find it very difficult to make this perfect because I can't draw circles or arcs on this. However, I'm going to try my best to show you roughly what it should look like when you do it on paper. So you need a compass for this, and with the compass, you would measure out 5 centimeters, which I'm sure that's the scale of this. So you'd measure out whatever it says the scale would be. So for this one, I'm imagining 1 meter is 1 centimeter. And you would draw a kind of quarter circle with your point of your compass at C, and you draw like a quarter circle like that. And that's not too bad, although it looks it looks closer to B than it should be, but it's not too bad. Okay, so that's that first bit sorted. Now it says the tree must be closer to CD, which is this bit here. So it's got to be closer to this than AB, so than this. So what we need to do is ensure that it's closer to the red line than the green line. Now to do this, you need to do a perpendicular bisector of AD or BC. Either one would work. So you get your compass and put it at point A,
and you measure out something that's more than 5 centimeters. It doesn't matter how much more, and you do an arc, like a bit of the circle this side and a bit of the circle this side. You do the same at D, and you do a bit of the circle this side and a bit of a circle this side, and then you join those up. So I'm going to join those up and just keep going like so. Now that will give you a perfect equidistant line from AB and CD. Mine's a little bit high, as you can see, but on your one it should look perfect. So it says shade the region the tree can be planted. So it's anywhere, and I might do a different colour for this so it just stands out a little bit. It's anywhere here. Now you always just double check this. So the blue shaded, and on your exam don't bother with a different colour, just use a pencil to shade it in. It says the tree must be at least 5 metres away from point C, which mine is, and the tree must be closer to CD than AB, which mine is. Okay, for Venn diagrams it's really important to understand the notation. This symbol here means union, it just means or. It means it can be in A, or it can be in B, or it can be in both. So it's any number inside either circle. So I could have 9, 5, 3, 7, 18 or 2. Let's go for 9, but the other 5 would be correct. This symbol here, I always view it as an and. I always put a little line there to say A for and it means it needs to be in A and B. It can't just be in A, it can't just be in B, it needs to be in both. And there's two numbers that fit that bill, 3 and 7. So I could write 3 or I could write 7. Now this little symbol here, okay, and it's an A with a dash. That dash there means not. So we're looking for numbers that aren't in A and are in B. Well, let's have a look at where not A is. Well, it's anywhere around here. Anywhere around here is not in A. And let's have a look at where B is. So B is anywhere here. So the numbers that overlap both of those are the 18 and the 2. So it's 18 and 2. So there are two numbers that fit that bill. So that will go at the top of our fraction. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in total. Now I can simplify that a little bit to make it a quarter. And so my answer to that will be 1/4, or a quarter. Okay, there's more than one way to expand and simplify a single bracket. You're essentially doing the same thing, but some of you might want to draw grids or do it in a different way. I always just use smiles and rainbows, so I just create a smile between the 2 and the 3x, and a rainbow between the 2 and the 6, and I put a little time sign there to remind me to times it. Just put a notch through the bracket. That means we're going to times 2 and 3x, and 2 times 3 is 6, and then we've got the x there, and 2 times 6 we're going to times together to make 12. Now we've still got the 4x, so I still need to write that down. Then I'm going to collect like terms. Now the like terms we have is the 6x and the plus 4x. So 6x plus 4x is 10x, and then there's nothing that we can do with the 12, so we just leave that. So it's 10x plus 12. Okay, the next one, there's a double smiles and rainbows. We've got one here, put a little time sign there, and we've got one here. So we'll do the first one first. So 8 times 6x, so we do 8 times 6, which is 48, and then we've got the x. Then we do 8 times positive 2, which is 16, so plus 16. Now that's nice and easy. However, the next one's slightly different. The number outside the brackets is not a 3, it's a minus 3. So when we do minus 3 times positive 4x, we're going to get a negative, because a minus times a positive is a negative. Then we do 3 times 4, which is 12, and then we've got the x as well. Now the rainbow is minus 3 times minus 5. Two minuses times together is a plus. 3 times 5 is 15. Then we look for like terms, so we've got the 48x and the minus 12x, and we've got the plus 16 and the plus 15. So we want to do 48 take away 12, or 48x take away 12x. So if we take away 2, it's 6. If we take away 10, it's 36x. Then we want to do 16 plus 15. Well, 15 plus 15 is 30, so that's going to be 31. So the answer is going to be 36x plus 31. Now the most common mistakes are for that n bit there, this bit here. Sometimes students will write down negative 15. So to answer this question, we need to be really familiar with the formula y equals mx plus c. Now y and x will constantly change, but m is what we call the gradient, and c, or plus c, is what we call the y-intercept. Okay, so we need to understand how to use that formula for this question. Now it already tells us that the gradient of the line is 3, so we can fill that in. So it's y equals 3x plus c. Nice and easy. The only thing we don't have is the y-intercept. Now the way of getting the y-intercept is substituting in the values we know. We know when x is 3, y is 17. So what I'm going to do is just put in the values. Put in the values of 3 for x and 17 for y. So it's going to be 17 equals 3 times 3 plus c. And I'm going to put my lines in so that I can solve it. So that's 17 equals 9 plus c. And we're going to take away 9 from both sides. So it's going to be 8 equals c, or just c equals 8. So looking back at this formula we had earlier, we had m but we didn't have c. Well, we now have c, which is 8. So it's y equals 3x plus 8. And you can check that by putting in the values of 3 as x and see whether you get 17. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 8 is 17.
Okay, so we've got quite a lot going on with this question. We've got 3 planks of wood attached by glues and nails, or glue and nails, so we don't need to worry about the joins. But we're looking at the 3 planks of wood. Now, we've got 2 of the lengths. One is 6 metres and the other's 8 metres. But we need to find, obviously, the third length here to be able to continue with this question. So, given the fact it's a right angle triangle, and we know 2 of the length, and we're finding a third length, it's going to be Pythagoras. And Pythagoras says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now c is the one that has to be the hypotenuse, and to find the hypotenuse we just go opposite the right angle. So we're finding c. A and b don't matter which way around we do it, so I'm going to do 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. And I can put my lines down as I normally do. So I always put the lines down that equals. I've just missed that one. So 6 squared is 36, 8 squared is 64, which equals c squared. 36 plus 64 is 100, equals c squared. All I do is just square root both sides, so c will equal 10. Now when you square root you get a negative as well, but since it's a length it can't be negative, so it's just going to be 10. So c is 10, so we know that that's going to be 10 metres. And it says it takes 90 millilitres of paint per metre of wood to cover it. So what we're going to have to do is work out how much wood we have. So I'm going to say to the examiner wood length or something. Always try and describe to the examiner what you're doing. So we're going to do 6 plus 8 plus 10. So 6 plus 8 is 14 plus 10 is 24. Okay. And then to work out the amount of paint required, so paint required, I need to do 24 because we've got 24 meters of paint times 90 because it's 90 milliliters per meter. So we can do this with the grid or column method. Doesn't really matter which one. I'll do the column, why not? So 0 for the first one, and then we're going to do 90 times 4, so we need to add a 0. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 2 is 18, plus the 3 is 21. And what we could have done is 9 times 24 and just added a 0 onto the end of it. There's loads of different ways of doing these things. So it would be 2,160 millilitres. If you ask this in litres it would be 2.160 litres, because there's 1,000 millilitres in a litre.
Okay, these are simultaneous equations, and I'm just going to write these out again so I've got a bit more space. So equals 63 and 2x minus 6y equals 0. Okay, so the important thing with simultaneous equations is that you need to either get the coefficient, the number before, the x, or the coefficient of the y the same. Now in this one we already have the coefficient of the y being the same. They're both 6. Yes, one's a positive, one's a negative, but we don't worry about that. And with simultaneous equations we work downwards, which was step 2, but in this one, because the question has been nice, it's going to be step 1. Now we look at the signs for the one with the coefficient that's the same. So the y's have a 6 before it, so we're looking at these signs here. Now if they are the same sign, we subtract. If they are different signs, we add. And it's that simple. Now they are different signs, so we know we are going to add. So we're going to add going downwards. Okay, so 5x plus 2x is 7x, and we're going downwards. 6y plus minus, well the minus wins a plus minus, so 6y minus 6y is 0, and it has to be 0, otherwise we can't answer this question, and 63 plus 0 is just 63. Then we put our lines in to solve it. So 7x equals 63, divide both sides by 7, so we have x equals 9. Okay, now next we're going to pick one of these equations to substitute that 9 into. I'm going to pick the first one, but I could probably easier to pick the second one, doesn't matter. So I'm just going to rewrite this first equation. But instead of 5x, we know it's 5 times 9 plus 6y equals 63. I'm going to put my lines in, and we've got to find out what y is now. So 5 times 9 is 45 plus 6y equals 63. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take away 45 from both sides. So we're going to do 63 take away 45, which is 18. So 6y equals 18. And then we're going to divide by 6 both sides, so y equals 3. And what you can do if you've got some time is just put it into the second equation. So we're going to do 2 times 9, which is 18, and 6 times 3, which is also 18. So 18 take away 18 is 0. So the answer is x equals 9 and y equals 3.
I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please click like, and if you really enjoyed it, please click subscribe. Also, make sure to check out our website. Our website has a lot more on it, and you can just revise anything you want. Finally, very, very good luck for those of you doing the resits in November, and I hope you get the result you want. Thank you very much.